Mark, good to see you. Come in, mate, we've got a lot to talk about. Welcome to the F1 ITV review of the 2002 Formula One season. Of course, Mark and I are going to be celebrating the brilliance of Michael Schumacher and Ferrari throughout the year. And Mark, what a year.
What a brilliant season. We witnessed Michael Schumacher take 11 Grand Prix wins to go on and equal Fangio's record of 5 world titles. The scary thing is, it's not over yet.
Absolutely. Just where will it all end for Michael Schumacher? But the next hour is not just a Ferrari fest. As ever, dig a little deeper in Formula One, and there are some great stories to tell. We hear from Ron Dennis, the boss of McLaren, to Frank Williams and Patrick Head, the owners of Williams, Max Mosley, the president of the FIA, the governing body of Formula One, and James Allen had a very special invitation to Ferrari HQ.
Well, it may seem quiet here at Maranello, but behind the scenes, it's buzzing. The technical department are trying to ensure they make as big a step in performance from 2002 to 2003 as they did last year. I'll be talking to Michael Schumacher about his 5th world title and whether he still has the hunger for more. And I'll be talking to Ross Brawn, the architect of the technical superiority.
But before that, let's go right back to the beginning of the season, the other side of the world in Melbourne, Australia, where it all began.
Ferrari started the season with a simple choice: race their new car and risk it breaking down, or use the reliable 2001 model. It was an easy decision. The old car was so good, it still beat the latest designs from the other teams. Round 1, 10 points to Schumacher. But the next race put the frighteners on Ferrari. A clash with Juan Pablo Montoya forced Michael Schumacher into the pits and down the pack. Even though he still made the podium, Michael and his team were worried about the winning performance of the Williams and their Michelin tyres in the Malaysian heat. Conditions at the next race in Brazil were expected to be similar. The new Ferrari was rushed into service. Michelin thought they had the edge in Brazil, and Montoya duly took pole. But the race proved to be a turning point in the championship. Ferrari's new car and its Bridgestone tyres were not just equal to the Williams, they held a clear advantage. And Michael Schumacher came off best in another clash with Montoya. Ferrari knew this was a crucial win in their quest for another world title. Back in Europe, Michael won easily at Imola. Ferrari's rivals were starting to admit privately that it would be a tall order to stop the Scarlet Steamroller. That's not to say Ferrari weren't fallible. One of their cars hadn't finished any of the first 3 races. All that bad luck belonged to Rubens Barrichello. He didn't even make the first corner in Australia, rear-ended by Ralf Schumacher. Then engine and hydraulics failures in Malaysia and Brazil. It was a miserable start to Rubens' 9th season in Formula One. But as soon as he got his hands on the new car, the results came together and the smiles returned. Barrichello described the new Ferrari as the best car he'd ever driven. second place at San Marino had never felt so good.
Right now I'm so happy because I had not finished the first 3 races, so it's the start of my season.
Another win in Spain brought Ferrari to Austria, and the moment that would taint their greatest ever season.
You ready? Go! Marky boy, are we going to see Rubens Barrichello's second career victory?
I'm sure it doesn't mean anything, James, but I've just seen Jean Todt pass a little note across the pit wall to Ross Brawn.
He's not going to let Michael through, is he? I do not believe it! I do not! Adam and Eve, what is going on?
In the interest of Ferrari and the Drivers' Championship, we've made the decision.
But it was fair and square, wasn't it? He beaten Michael in a fair fight.
Well, you say fair, we told the driver not to race each other, so how can that be a fair fight? The team controlled the race, the whole race.
Morally, he's the winner. I'm officially the winner, but not morally the winner. So naturally, I'm a little bit upset about this. What should I do? I have on the contract that I have to obey others as much as Michael. He has on the same clause.
So whatever the contracts say, Michael Schumacher wins 5 of the first 6 Grand Prix, his brother Ralph taking the other one. So from a driver's perspective, it's a Schumacher whitewash. And of course, from the team's view, it's a red wash, and the others have so much catching up to do. But then Ferrari go and spoil it all with one of the darker days of Formula One's history. Mark, what's your view of the great Austrian switch?
I was never happy with the decision on the day. I'm still not comfortable with it now. I think Ferrari made a huge error of judgment. Michael Schumacher should have got an Oscar nomination for his podium scene, and as a sports person, he should have stayed second on the road.
I know, it's amazing. He's got certain benefits in his contract, and he chose to use them all that day, and they even upset their own fans. They were booing them too. But would Ferrari learn a lesson from their great mistake? We'll find out shortly. Welcome back to our Formula One season review. Race 7 was in Monaco, and to everybody's relief, neither a Schumacher nor a Ferrari won that one. More about that later. Michael Schumacher returned to his winning ways at the very next Grand Prix in Canada. But as the circus returned to Europe, once again, it was an easy Ferrari 1-2 with Barrichello in front. How would they play it this time?
Williams had been dominant in qualifying, but Rubens Barrichello produced a fantastic start from 4th on the grid to lead at the end of the opening lap. He was still in front as the first round of pit stops approached, but teammate Michael Schumacher was close on his heels. Maybe too close. The spin cost Michael 11 seconds, time he soon made up. So now the big question was, would he be able to find a way past? Barrichello wasn't the only one wondering whether the call would come from the pit wall to pull over and allow Michael through. Luckily, it didn't. Ferrari appeared to have changed their ways, although it turned out Ross Brawn had issued team orders after all.
We did learn a lot of things from Austria, and we don't deny there were some things that we wish we'd handled differently. On the last lap, I asked Rubens he needed to do something for me, and there was a long pause, and I said, please win the race.
In Great Britain, Schumacher was simply stunning. Victory number 7 set the German up for a shot at the title in record time. A win in France would clinch the championship crown.
Go!
He's lost it.
Oh, Kimi,
Michael says, have a bit of that.
He's a 5 times World Formula One champion. This is history.
I haven't experienced any sort of emotional outbreak in the car like that today. I'm struggling to give you answers.
5 times world champion, 5-mal Weltmeister, I think it is, but in any language, it's an incredible achievement.
Oh, well done, actually, for your German.
Danke schön.
Oh la la.
All smiles in the red camp then. Next goal, the Constructors' title, and another 1-2 in Hungary sorted that one out. The team were ecstatic, but the celebrations weren't over yet. There were 2 more clean sweeps in Spa and Italy. It looked as though Ferrari could do no wrong, but when they took centre stage in the USA, it was once again for all the wrong reasons.
Barrichello is alongside him as they run for the line. A Ferrari wins the race, but which one?
In no cases I'll be ashamed to what has happened. Today I I grabbed the win like I let it go in Austria.
There's been a comment from Ron Dennis not to play games like this on the finish line. What would you say to that?
Nothing.
Michael Schumacher with nothing to say. That's unusual. But the results speak for themselves. Ferrari winning the final 10 Grand Prix of the season, including 7 1-2s, culminating in Michael's brilliant victory at the Japanese Grand Prix, one of the toughest driver circuits anywhere in the world. But Mark, the finish in Indianapolis, what on earth was that all about?
What was that all about? There we are, Indianapolis, USA, 175,000 people there on race day, and Michael Schumacher chooses to do a photo finish, trying to fabricate a result. You can't do that in America, they don't understand it. He said he wanted to give Rubens Barrichello a win back, but that was not the place to do it, and I don't think it paid off for him one little bit.
Absolutely, he tried to create a photo finish, and they record these races to 4 decimal places, not a prayer, especially if you don't let your team and your teammate know the game plan.
Nobody knew other than Michael Schumacher, and the despair on his face when he had to go to the press office was a joy to see for me.
Yeah, it was a miserable sight watching him in the press office. He didn't even know where the finish line was when it came down to it. But let's take a look at those final championship standings. Michael Schumacher then winning the title easily, virtually double the points of his teammate and second place man Rubens Barrichello. But let's look at the manufacturer's title. It's an even bigger story. Ferrari scoring exactly the same number of points as all of the other teams put together. That is total dominance.
Michael, the word perfect is often overused in motor racing, but can you think of any way in which this year could have been better for you?
No, clearly no.
It's been a dream really, hasn't it?
It has been a fantastic season with many achievements, with many good races, with a lot of emotions. So it has been a beautiful year.
Now, the word domination has been a real buzzword of the season. Do you think it's a bad thing in some ways to be so dominant sometimes?
You know, I have been many years behind dominant cars, and I always wanted a dominant car, and I'm not unsatisfied at all.
Any race in particular where you felt under the most pressure this season?
Probably Magny-Cours. Before the race, not so much, but during the race, in particular in the end, when I knew it's going to be the race I win the championship, it was a lot of pressure.
I've covered your entire career in Formula One. I've seen you go through so many emotions, but just describe the emotion of becoming a 5-time world champion when it dawned on you.
I think pictures explain more than words, and if you look at my emotions and the way I have been after the race, crossing the line or on the podium, I think all those pictures could explain far more than I could put in words.
And the 6th World Championship, no one's ever been able to dream of that before, but I guess you're thinking pretty seriously about that now.
I'm not a dreamer, I only start thinking when I have it in my pocket, and that's a long way to go.
Thank you very much for talking to us, Michael. Good luck.
Welcome.
Cheers.
Well, the man responsible for keeping Michael Schumacher ahead of the opposition is Ross Brawn, Ferrari's technical director. I went out to Maranello to hear Ross's reflections on a season in which his car won 15 of the 17 races, but not without controversy. Looking back on it now, if you were on that pit wall and it was the Austrian Grand Prix closing stage, would you do anything different? Have you learned from what happened there?
Yeah, of course. You know, one of the difficulties is we're so blinkered. I mean, we're very competitive people, and we just want to maximise every situation. I mean, that's our job. That's our responsibility. I mean, every element of the car is maximised. Every situation is maximised to get the most from it. And of course, to us, swapping the drivers around was maximising the situation. We didn't expect the reaction, but so on the other side, we are enthusiasts and we love Formula One, so we don't want to do things that damage Formula One. And it was very thought-provoking, and you know, we did take that into consideration for the rest of the season. I think what happened in Indianapolis was just a silly mistake. It's not of the same magnitude or same type of issue that we had in Austria, but certainly that's something which was a lesson to us, and we learned a lot from it.
Ross, obviously the relationship with Bridgestone making tailor-made tyres for you was critical, but what other elements were key to your success this year?
Well, I think it's just an accumulation of the relationships of the people at Ferrari. I mean, this is my 6th year at Ferrari now, and Rory's 6th year, Jean's 9th or 10th year, and you know, the relationships continue to grow and continue to strengthen. The people we've got are now on their 5th or 6th car, and each car's got a little bit better. We haven't had to take a step back because new people have come in, or we've moved sideways because new people have come in, and that's so important.
Your two drivers certainly gave their best performances in either of their careers to date, really, wouldn't you say?
Yes, yeah, I mean, they're a super pairing, and they get on very well together, which is nice. And that can't be underestimated. I mean, it creates a good atmosphere in the team. It creates a very positive atmosphere in the team. It's a very open relationship between the two drivers, between the engineers. I mean, they want to beat each other, there's no doubt about that. It is the best performance I've seen from either of them, certainly since I've been at Ferrari, and it's encouraging for the future because they're both champing at the bit for next year as well.
Ross Brawn, one of British motorsport's finest ever exports. Let's hope we get him back one day. Mark, I worked with Ross at the Jaguar sports car team and at Benetton. He's so calm, so intelligent, a great asset to any team.
A remarkable man. Let's not forget that Michael Schumacher worked with Ross Brawn at Benetton, a very successful partnership back then. When Michael came into Ferrari, he was very quick to get a team of people around him. Ross, Rory Byrne, Jean Todt. That package of people has produced results which have been clear to see. It's no longer possible for one person to dominate Formula One as a team member. You need to have that complete package of people.
A super team indeed. Ross started his days in Formula One at the Williams team. Let's have a look at their season.
The early races offered some hope that Williams BMW would take the fight to Ferrari. Juan Pablo Montoya was never afraid to have a go at Michael Schumacher, who in turn was always happy to have a go back. Their scrap in Australia was a tantalising glimpse of what should have been a year-long championship battle. Ralf Schumacher looked equally confident. His win in Malaysia might have been the first of many, especially if the Michelin tyres kept getting better and the new Ferrari was only a small improvement over the old one. But just a fortnight later, Williams would learn the awful truth. The Ferrari F2002 was massively quicker than its predecessor in all areas. Ralf could not find a way past his brother at Interlagos. Montoya might have got a different result, but he took himself out of contention for the second race in succession.
Oh, and he's touched. Montoya's lost his front wing. Hits the back of Michael Schumacher.
Williams were beaten. The writing was on the wall.
Just back.
It didn't help that the two drivers had a habit of running into other competitors and into each other. The Williams garage was sometimes an uncomfortable place to be. The relationship between teammates tense.
I was, probably a car ahead of him, and, we keep doing that. We're never going to beat Ferrari, but...
Where Montoya did beat Ferrari was during qualifying. 7 poles proved his speed over a single lap, but he'd often set pole on his final effort. Under F1's new rules next year, he'll have just 1 lap to do it. So will he be able to repeat this kind of achievement?
It's the fastest lap ever in Formula One, Juan Pablo Montoya.
The Colombian gave us some great wheel-to-wheel racing. It made compelling viewing, but his style was frowned upon by his team and some of F1's more experienced campaigners.
Being ballsy and defending your position is all fine and well, but if you then drive yourself off the circuit, then actually that's not being very smart.
Montoya was disappointed not to win a race this season. He would surely have won in Montreal had his engine not given up. Reliability needs to improve if Williams and BMW are to challenge Ferrari for next year's title. That challenge will be spearheaded by a revolutionary new car. As the team admits, this year's FW24 was not up to scratch.
I think it was a perfectly good enough car to beat Ferrari's 2001 car, but it wasn't good enough to beat their 2002 car. So clearly, whether it's called conservative or whether it's just that it didn't contain enough advantage, whichever way you describe it, it wasn't good enough for the job it had to do.
I think the writing was on the wall, writ large.
Why? Because that was a race that you were expected to go well?
No, we'd won the previous year, but we didn't expect to be thrashed by such a conspicuous margin.
Juan Pablo had this fantastic run of poles. Were you especially impressed with that?
Well, the one won 7 poles. That's an impressive number. It means he's very quick and the car's very quick. It means also he's very quick for 1 lap and the car's very quick for only 1 lap.
The performance was there in qualifying, but partly to do with the degrading of the tyres from new, some of which was probably due to traction control qualities, certainly in the earlier part of the year, but we overcame that problem. But some of the aerodynamic characteristics of the car were damaging to the tyres, and that caused our racer performance to be weaker. We did move forward relative to McLaren, or McLaren moved backwards, whichever way you could look at it, and so we finished second, but okay, it's an old adage, but it's first for the losers.
We know we must improve. We know we must improve the show, that is, and that the crux is better racing out the front. And if you like, Ferrari didn't let the side down. McLaren and Williams let the side down by failing to be competitive when it really mattered.
Classic Frank and Patrick there. They won't even cut themselves any slack. They're taking a lot of pain.
Tough characters. Frank, Patrick, the driving force behind the Williams Grand Prix team. They know that they've got an engine partner with BMW, second to none down the pit lane. They brought out an engine with 19,000 RPM come the end of the year. No problems in that department. I think they might be scratching their heads on what the drivers did this season.
Well, they tended to trip over each other, didn't they? Montoya super fast in qualifying, but didn't win a race.
Didn't win a race. Big surprise to me. I'm one of his biggest fans. But he seemed to be scrapping a little bit too much with Ralf Schumacher. They've got to get out of that. That's not what the Williams Grand Prix team need. They need to get results. If they get the car under them for next year, I think the drivers are quite capable of doing it.
I agree with you. Ralf tended to be focused too much on Montoya and vice versa. And I think Montoya also spent too much time for that hot lap without thinking enough about the rest of the Grand Prix weekend. It's Sunday when the points are scored. But do you think those two can ever have a stable relationship and help drive Williams forward?
I think the cultures of both the drivers are very, very different. But, you know, I think they've got what it takes to win Grand Prix, the pair of them. They've done it in the past and they will do it again in the future. But Williams need a durable, reliable, consistent car. That's the key.
Well, let's hope they find that key real soon. But what about arch rivals McLaren? How did they fare? We'll find out about that in a moment. Welcome back. We've already heard all about Ferrari and Williams, but what about McLaren? A new driver lineup. Raikkonen steps in for retiring fellow countryman Häkkinen to join Coulthard. The whole package looked very strong in pre-season testing, but it was not a stellar season for the Silver Arrows.
David Coulthard wins in Monte Carlo for the second time in his career. An important day for the McLaren Mercedes team.
A very important day, actually. The only win of a poor season by McLaren standards. Coulthard grabbed a memorable victory in Monaco, but admitted chances of a repeat were pretty slim.
We know this might be our best opportunity this year of getting a victory, and you know, it doesn't mean we're not going to keep working, but clearly on other types of circuits we've struggled a little bit, and it's going to be a long season still to go.
Poor reliability blighted the year for Coulthard and McLaren newcomer Kimi Raikkonen. It wasn't unusual to see the young Finn pull up amidst a cloud of smoke, but he showed flashes of real potential. In France, he looked all set for his maiden win, when on the penultimate lap, he slipped on oil left by Alan McNish's stricken Toyota.
Suddenly I saw the yellow flags, but not the oil flag, and I thought that it's just a normal, like there was maybe 5 laps before somebody spun off, and this time there was oil on the circuit, and ran wide and Michael got past, and was very disappointing.
Kimi might not exactly talk the talk, but on track he displays awesome speed and bravery. Who could forget qualifying at Spa?
Raikkonen, very committed. Oh, look at the smoke. What's that? He doesn't seem to be lifting.
That was super brave, especially as there's a good chance there's a lot of oil in the middle of it.
One of the most remarkable things I've seen in 12 years of Grand Prix racing.
Kimi may have out-qualified David Coulthard 10-7 over the course of the season, but Coulthard knows it's the races that count. He outscored his young teammate in the final points tally and continued to prove that he's always up for a fight, both on the track and off it.
Congratulations.
No points for either of us.
Little conversation just going on between Juan Pablo and David Coulthard here while I'm speaking to him.
I spun.
I know that, you hit me. You think I don't know that?
Sorry about that.
McLaren don't like being second best, so being third in the Constructors' Championship will have wounded team boss Ron Dennis. Nothing less than the sweet taste of success will suffice in 2003. Much will depend on the new car from Adrian Newey and the technical team, but whilst the 2002 season brought few rewards, it wasn't all bad news.
We didn't have
a bad package in reality. I think there was some elements of the car that were a little weak at the beginning of the season. But overall it was a year of catch-up, and I think towards the end of the season we'd really made a lot of progress. We were a lot more competitive in the latter races. Overall a pretty unsatisfactory performance from the team as a whole. We can do a lot better. We've done it in the past, we'll do it in the future.
What about from the drivers? Were you satisfied with their performances?
Very much so. David was mature, focused, competitive. Kimi was everything we could have wished for, taking into account that it was his first season in a bigger team than he'd been used to. He was very balanced, very determined, coped well with the many disappointments he had. His car was certainly not anywhere near as reliable as David's. That wasn't by design, of course, and he took it well. So I think, all in all, I think both drivers did a pretty good job.
Do you think in terms of the championship, did McLaren drop the ball this year, or were Ferrari just that much ahead of everybody else?
Well, I think really it was our lack of performance that made them look great. They certainly had the reliability and they had the performance, but we really didn't get our act together in many ways, and we made them look a lot better than they were, that's for sure.
Ron Dennis looking very dapper but also very disappointed. Mark, our old governor, a polished performer, but what's really going on in his mind?
I'm sure Ron's assessing the changes that he made last year, and what I mean by that is that he had a car which was designed around Bridgestone tyres. He switched late to Michelin. It hasn't really paid off. What else has been an issue? Mercedes-Benz. It's not the #1 power plant anymore. BMW takes that mantle, and also unreliable. Lots of engine failures, cost the guys lots of results.
Indeed it did, but when they kept going, they often made the best of a bad job on a Sunday afternoon.
And that was really through tactics and the fact that they could run a lot longer on one tank of fuel than most of the other guys down the pit lane. Kimi Raikkonen should have really pulled off the win at Magny-Cours. He got caught out by some oil. David Coulthard did low at Monte Carlo with a fantastic win.
Yes, indeed. Coulthard ended up the season top Brit. How did the rest of our boys do?
The smile was back on the 2002 spec Jenson Button, the glint in the eye fully restored for his second year at Renault. At the top end of the season, the car was good enough to give McLaren some stick, and judging by Jenson's 6 points from the first 3 races, that first podium was surely just around the corner.
I think we've got to wait a few more races for new parts of the car to come, and then we'll be hopefully up there, but I can't wait. I'm bored of finishing 4th and 5th now.
The podium never came. What's more, Renault was slowly freezing Jenson out of the team, replacing him for 2003 with the Spaniard Fernando Alonso. British American Racing's big man David Richards swooped, signing Button to a 4-year deal. Despite a drop-off in development of the Renault, Jenson kept the points coming and finished the year 7th in the Drivers' Championship, his best ever.
How are you looking forward to 2003, a new challenge with BAR?
I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. No, I'm really looking forward to it. You know, it's good to end this season on a high, but the most important thing for me now is to look forward to next year.
Jenson joins a team in the middle of a transformation. BAR were pointless for the first half of the season, before netting 5 in a single, soaking wet Silverstone afternoon. 2 more came at Monza and Indy, but they still finished 8th in the constructors' table, sandwiched between Jaguar and Minardi. Honda expect better from their works team next season. Jacques Villeneuve stays with BAR despite some unsubtle attempts to lure him away from his hugely lucrative contract, while Olivier Panis leaves to head up Team Toyota in place of the retiring Mika Salo.
A turbulent season for Jaguar ended with the departure of both Eddie Irvine and Pedro de la Rosa. And after showing the drivers the door, team principal Niki Lauda soon found himself on the way out of it too. Jaguar were fighting an uphill battle right from the start. A lucky 4th in Australia couldn't hide the fact that the new design had real problems.
The car handled very bad before and it was slow. The first time the car handled reasonably well and it was still slow. That's more worrying than handling bad and being slow.
The team battled gamely to improve the package all year and was rewarded with an emotional 3rd place for Irvine at Monza. Sadly, 2 podiums in 3 years wasn't enough to save Irvine or his teammate. Jaguar replaced them with Aussie Mark Webber, who moves over from Minardi. Webber's joined at Jaguar by Brazilian rookie Antonio Pizzonia. Webber certainly joined the F1 ranks with a bang. A hugely impressive, if a little lucky fifth in his Melbourne debut brought an emotional day for Webber, Minardi and the team's Australian owner, Paul Stoddart. So as the season ended, it looked like Eddie Irvine's only option was Jordan, who didn't have the best of years themselves. New boy Takuma Sato had a series of expensive and embarrassing shunts, but he was the innocent victim of this horrendous crash in Austria. Despite worrying scenes, he emerged miraculously unscathed, and his tenacity was finally rewarded with an excellent fifth place at his home Grand Prix. Sato's now a hero in Japan, but that might not be enough to win him another season at Jordan. Finances could be the deciding factor in Eddie Jordan's thinking. But Giancarlo Fisichella definitely stays, hoping the link-up with Ford will at last give him the chance to show his true colours.
Memories are short in Formula One, so it's a shame that most will remember Alan McNish for the massive crash he had during qualifying at the last round in Japan. The man they call the Mighty Mouse did the best he could while at the inexperienced Toyota team. Alan would surely have scored higher with the support of an established F1 outfit. But he never complained and drove his heart out all year. The nearest he came to the points was in Malaysia, where a problem with the car dropped him down to 7th. McNish's seat at Toyota goes to the current kart champion, Cristiano D'Amato. Anthony Davidson became the 5th Brit on the grid when he subbed for the off-form Alex Young. Many miles as a test driver helped Anthony get well on top of the Minardi, impressing the Formula One establishment with his qualifying speed. But race performances were another matter. The Hertfordshire lad learnt the hard way that you can't score points from a gravel trap. Minardi have continued the trend of employing young British drivers. They've since signed F3000 ace Justin Wilson to a race seat for 2003. Tom Walkinshaw has been told his Arrows team are not welcome in Formula One. The team didn't show up to the last 5 races of the season because of financial problems. Arrows applied for an entry in the 2003 championship, but were turned down by the FIA.
Well, it's clear to see it was not a classic year for the British drivers in Formula One. Mark, Jenson Button, his choice of BAR and his progress this year?
Progress-wise, difficult. He got outperformed by Trulli in qualifying, but in the race he was a lot stronger. At the end of the season he had a choice, Jaguar, Sauber or BAR. I think he's made the right one with BAR, but Alan McNish, no drive whatsoever for next year. I don't know what you think about that.
I think Alan had a very hard time and not a fair crack of the whip, but I'm afraid at this level you don't always get a second chance, and it was a real crying shame for him to miss his final Grand Prix chance at the Japanese Grand Prix. Let's hope it works out for him into the future. What about Anthony Davidson? Got a chance of a lifetime in the Minardi. Did he cut the mustard?
Young guy came in, a lot of experience with BAR in testing, so, you know, he knew how to drive a Formula One car, put under pressure, put in the spotlight. He pulled it off in qualifying against Webber, not that big a gap, just didn't quite cut the mustard in the race. Little bit of time to decide whether he's got what it takes.
Formula One World Champion ex-Jacques Villeneuve, just 4 World Championship points, teammate to Button next year, of course. Has he still got what it takes?
I'm not sure. I mean, there's been so much in the press about he's expensive, he hasn't got the job done, he needs to be moved on, he should go back to the States and race there. Interesting, isn't it? He scored the same amount of points as young Massa, and Massa got turfed out.
He did indeed, although there's a chance Massa will turn up somewhere else in the future. I think he's a star. His driving style was bizarre, all the time turning the steering wheel, moving his head around. I think if he just calmed that down, Massa's got the speed, and he's certainly brave enough to get the job done. Sato in the Jordan. He had a great run, of course, at the Japanese Grand Prix earlier in the season. It was an absolute disaster. He tripped over anything he could find. But I thought that he just about did enough to keep his name in the frame in Formula One.
Came with a good pedigree, F3 champion. Should have been a little bit stronger, I feel. But at the same point, had a lot of issues, a lot of reliability problems. He had to learn the trade in Formula One in the public eye. But, you know, a lot of people have done that before. I think he just about cut it as well, but only just.
Well, a tough season for many of those drivers. Let's have a look at the final championship standings. Once again, then, Michael Schumacher wins the World Championship on 144 points, followed by teammate Barrichello on 77. Interestingly, they both scored exactly 21 points more than the season before. Continuing in the Noah's Ark theme, we have Williams, then McLaren, and then Renault. Irvine was 9th, heading up a very strong midfield fight throughout the season, just ahead of Fisichella, Heidfeld, Massa and a very disappointed Villeneuve, just in front of teammate Panis. Frentzen scored 2 points and also drove 2 cars, the Arrows and at the end of the season, the Sauber. Salo and Webber on 2 points, the Australian Minardi driver often mixing it with much faster cars. This year has been interesting but not a classic, so they're making some changes for 2003, not least with the qualifying procedure and the point system. More about that in a moment. Welcome back. On the 28th of October, the key decision makers in Formula 1 got together at Heathrow in the hope of coming up with new regulations to spice up the world of Grand Prix racing. They also made another decision. Due to tobacco advertising laws, they've cancelled the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa. That's like putting a dagger through the heart of any racing driver. The first major change for next year's 16-race calendar then is in the qualifying procedure, moving to a new Superpole style of running. On Friday afternoon, they'll have just one single lap to determine the running order for Saturday afternoon, when once again, over the hour, 1 car at a time, they will have one single lap each to determine their grid position. Big changes for the tyre manufacturers. Instead of being allowed to bring just 2 tyres to suit the whole field, they can now tune them individually for each of the teams that they supply. Wets, they can now only bring 1 type of wet tyre for the whole weekend. They've changed the points allocation system in a hope to prolong the championship battle. First still gets 10 points, but now it's 8 for second place, and then 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. They've banned team orders that affect the result of a race, whatever that might mean. It's suitably grey and for sure will cause controversy down the road. And finally, a change aimed at the smaller teams. In lieu of giving up most of their testing during the Grand Prix season, they will be allowed to run on a Friday for an extra 2 hours. It's going to be very interesting to see how those rule changes affect the Grand Prix weekend, particularly the grid order. Let's see what some of the opinion formers think about them.
I think there'll be often occasions when the quick drivers won't be at the front because the car's had a problem or they haven't quite got the car set up or they've made a mistake. And far more often you'll get the quick guys at the back having to fight their way through the grid, and I think that's going to be good.
Teams that can produce a car that's very drivable will be advantaged, because in the 1 lap qualifying the driver will be trying to find the limit everywhere in one go. So cars that are very stable on corner entry, I think, will be very important to the drivers.
Patrick has written to 1 in detail explaining the problem he may face when we view his recent season or 2 seasons with us. I believe that 1 will always mature and improve. Ralph, his first lap is always very quick. He rarely makes a mistake on his first lap.
We're a little bit worried that they might make out-and-out qualifying cars with practically no radiators, special engines and so on, because it's only got to do 20 kilometres. So what we're going to do is enforce the rules properly. So if you want to have a qualifying car for qualifying, that's fine. That's the car you race. So if it's only got a 10-litre fuel tank, you've got a problem. Up till now, the rule has been 2 different tyres for each tyre company for all their teams. And the problem was that Bridgestone could do 2 tyres for Ferrari, or in fact for Michael Schumacher, whereas Michelin had to do 2 tyres which had to suit both Williams and McLaren and Renault, etc. Now they can do what they like. That's to say they're still limited to 2 tyres, 2 types of tyre, but it's 2 types of tyre for each team.
Williams and ourselves were marginally handicapped by having to accept each other's decisions. Chances are we'll still continue to race on the same tyres, but there may be the odd occasion where that little bit of flexibility that the regulations now provide, where we could choose different tyres for a particular race circuit, may help one or other of the teams. And I think the important thing is to have things level and fair, and I think that's what the regulation has done.
I think there's still some discussion to go on about what is meant by team orders. I mean, if you have a situation where, let's say you're in third and fourth position, your guy in fourth position clearly is faster than the guy in third and maybe could challenge to win the race. Is it wrong for you to say to that guy, let him through, let him have a go at trying to win the race, because you can't?
I don't think there's really any way you can control team orders that ends up with one car having a slightly less powerful engine than the other, and equally slow pit stops and things like that. To say a slow pit stop was deliberate or not deliberate is almost difficult to define.
Well, certainly some interesting views there. Mark, the new qualifying procedure, surely if we've got rain halfway through the session, oil down, mechanical failure, driver error, we're going to see a topsy-turvy grid.
Topsy-turvy grid indeed, but I want to see the guys under pressure. One single lap, they've really got to be able to turn it on, and it's going to play into the hands of Michael Schumacher. We've seen it time and time again. He goes out the pit lane, sets that hot lap, and then he goes and stays there on pole position.
But I've seen data where teams have looked over the last couple of seasons and worked out their drivers would roughly have been in exactly the same place on the grid if you just take the first lap of the afternoon. But nonetheless, it should spice up Saturday afternoons nicely. Now the tyres, the wets, it's a drying day at Monza, you're doing 200 miles an hour. It's scary, it's dangerous to have just one tyre. It cannot surely have such a big window as to be safe in all conditions.
It's going to be a tough call for the manufacturers to make that universal wet, especially to suit all the different cars. But the bigger call for me is going to be the dry tyres. Now we're talking about having two different compounds. The manufacturer can do whatever they want. Are we going to get a super sticky for that hot lap in qualifying? And then they're going to make a choice on a compound for the race. And is it going to be too hard or too soft? That's going to have a big outcome.
The point system, some people are saying with only 2 points in it, if you're in second place, why would you take the risk to grab the lead?
The difference between first and second is still worth the gamble. And the win is the ultimate, because come the end of the year, it makes all the difference.
Well, I tend to agree with you, but I don't think they've really done enough, and I'm pretty sure before we head down to Melbourne, some of these new rules will be revised and added to. But the real issue is, how are the other teams going to close the gap to Ferrari?
The Ferrari car had a good margin of performance over our car, so it really will depend whether we can include enough of a performance step in our new car to close that gap and maintain that level and add to it during the year so that we can compete with their new car. I know that we're trying extremely hard, I know that we're working very hard, I know that we're taking a much more adventurous approach in order to close that gap and give them real competition.
What's quite certain is that whilst we'll go with a significantly improved 17D, and all the improvements will come from, well, the improvements will come from not only the chassis but the engine, hopefully tyres as well. But the 18 should be a much bigger step. It won't race it any earlier than Imola. That's a very difficult target for us to reach, but it'll run several days before Imola. If everything goes smoothly, that's still our target. The goal is to make a quantum leap, and to do that is very challenging in Formula One, and not always easily achievable in a short period of time. Hence, we're taking a bit more time.
We've got the same philosophy as we had from 2001 to 2002, and obviously with such a good car, we've got to make sure the new car is better. There's no point in having it unless it's better. And so there were decisions made late to make sure that we did make an improvement on the car. And there were some aspects of the car that took time to make sure they were better than what we had now. So it's definitely a possibility. We'll be running the new car early February, and then we'll see what we have now. We're preparing to take the 2002 cars to the first few races, so we'll have both options available.
Yes, that's going to be an awful lot of hard work to catch the Ferrari, and I believe Williams and McLaren are going to have to go very radical, Mark.
I think Ferrari are going to be strong for the beginning of the season, but the progress won't be seen until the middle of the season for those guys, and don't underestimate Renault. I think they'll be very, very strong next year.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and hopefully some of the other teams will give us some nice surprises too. Well, we've enjoyed looking back at the 2002 Formula One season. We hope you have too. See you soon.
You ready? Let's go! going to win this Grand Prix.